Hi guys, welcome! In this video, we'll dive into the detailed skill analysis of Ellinia, the next hero class coming in ROM. The Cat God Ellinia is a ranged physical hero class that has a unique ability to possess PP Dragon or another player, rendering her invincible in battle. This allows her to survive dangerous situations and continue dealing damage while being shielded from harm. We already had our first look at Ellinia and showcased her DPS prowess in my previous videos. This time we'll explore her skill mechanics and analyze her pros and cons in both PvE and PvP. Alright, without further ado, let's begin. First, let's take a look at Ellinia's possession mechanics. Ellinia's core passive skill, Mercury Contract, grants her the ability to possess her PP Dragon summon, a teammate, or an enemy player, providing distinct effects for both her and the possessed target. She has 3 different skills that can be used to possess a target. Meow Possession allows her to possess PP Dragon or a teammate. Soul Exchange is used to switch position between another teammate or PP Dragon. And Meow's Prisoner allows her to possess an enemy player. During possession state, Ellinia can only use her own hero skills, meaning adventure skills, 6v6 talents, and skills obtained from cards cannot be cast while mounted. The possession state lasts for 10 minutes when possessing a teammate or a PP Dragon, but it only lasts for 10 seconds when possessing an enemy player. The possession state cannot be dispelled and is not affected by Black Hole, though it will end if the possessed target dies or if another Ellinia takes control of the possessed target. You can also cancel the possession manually by tapping the skill again. Just take note that when the possession ends, Meow Possession will enter a 15-second cooldown, while Meow's Prisoner will enter a 30-second cooldown. There's also a 15-second cooldown when switching position using Soul Exchange. So what happens during possession state? First, when Ellinia possesses a teammate or an enemy player, she gains a portion of their Ignore Physical Def, Physical Pen, Physical Damage, and Skill Damage bonuses. These stats are not reduced for the possessed target, and it is only shared to Ellinia. The gainable attributes cannot exceed 50% at max core passive. As an example, if the teammate has 200% Ignore Physical Def and 30% Skill Damage, Ellinia gains 50% Ignore Physical Def and 30% skill damage during possession. Second, when Ellinia possesses PP Dragon, it will deal 50% higher damage and receive 50% less damage. This is classified as Result Dam Inc. and Result Dam Res, which means it increases PP Dragon's final damage and reduces all forms of final damage received, including HP loss damage. In team battles, it's more advantageous to possess a DPS teammate to enhance her own offensive capabilities. Higher stats for Ellinia will also make PP Dragon more powerful since it inherits her combat attributes. Third, once the core passive reaches level 4, Ellinia becomes invincible while in possession state. This grants Ellinia immunity to damage or any negative effects. And at level 7 core passive, the invincibility effect is extended for an additional 3 seconds after the possession state ends, further enhancing her survivability. Overall, reaching max core passive is essential for optimizing Ellinia's durability and maximizing the benefits she gains from possession. Next, let's take a look at Ellinia's 2 sources of damage. First, Ellinia's primary damaging skill is Mercury Concerto. After use, Starstones will rain down from the sky for 4 seconds, dealing Earth Element physical skill damage every 0.5 seconds to 3 random enemies within an 8-meter radius. It has synergy with her max core passive, wherein an additional Starstone will fall every second on the nearest enemy within 5 meters. Thus, an enemy can receive 0 to 3 damage ticks per second. The damage of Mercury Concerto scales with both ranged physical attack and magic attack, making Dex and Int the most important stats for maximizing her damage potential. Its damage can be increased by up to 30% via the related S rune, and another 15% if Ellinia is possessing an enemy thanks to the tier 5 effect of her signature weapon. An added bonus of Mercury Concerto is that it can hit hiding enemies, though it will not reveal their position. Ellinia's other source of damage is her PP Dragon. Through the Go PP skill, PP Dragon attacks all nearby enemies, dealing neutral element physical skill damage. If Ellinia is riding PP Dragon, the skill activates automatically as PP Dragon will attack the same target she focuses on. As mentioned earlier, PP Dragon inherits Ellinia's combat attributes, so its attacks scale based on the inherited range physical attack, magic attack, and other damage modifiers. In PvE, the damage dealt by PP Dragon surpasses Mercury Concerto due to several factors. First, PP Dragon's damage against monsters can be enhanced by up to 100% through the related S rune. Second, PP Dragon's final skill damage increases by 50% when possessed by Ellinia. Third, the PP Scarred passive skill boosts the damage of PP Dragon by another 50%. And fourth, since PP Dragon is considered a living summon, its damage can be enhanced with the help of the Aid Arcane rune. PP Dragon is also resilient in battle. When it receives fatal damage, it will disappear and recharge for 10 seconds before returning to the battlefield. And with the help of the PP Scarred passive skill, this recharge time is shortened to 6 seconds, minimizing the dragon's downtime. However, there's still a 15-second cooldown after Ellinia dismounts from PP Dragon before she can ride it again, but in the meantime, the dragon still operates as an effective secondary damage source. Next, let's take a look at Ellinia's buff skills, which can benefit herself and the possessed target. First, Element Roulette converts the element of her and PP Dragon's attack into one of wind, earth, water, fire, or holy elements. This allows her to bypass the default earth element of Mercury Concerto and the neutral element of PP Dragon's attacks, making her more versatile in combat. Aside from its offensive benefit, Element Roulette also provides a defensive effect by reducing the damage taken from the chosen element by 50%, which can be increased by up to 80% with the related S rune. These effects last for 60 seconds and can be dispelled. Next, Rainbow Guard provides Ellinia with an undispellable damage-absorbing shield that lasts for 10 seconds. The shield's absorption value is equal to 100% of her max HP, though it doesn't include max HP% bonuses and base HP. When Ellinia is possessing either PP Dragon or a teammate, the shield will take effect on the possessed target instead, and its effect is doubled. Aside from absorbing damage, the shield can also reduce the HP loss damage received by up to 30% thanks to the related star rune. However, despite being undispellable, the shield can still be removed by skills like Black Hole. Next, Ellinia's primary healing skill comes from her Intertwined Fate passive skill. When she possesses PP Dragon or a teammate, this passive restores HP to herself and the possessed target every 5 seconds. The healing amount is equivalent to 5 times the sum of her own physical and magic attack, which is quadrupled in PvP and GVG maps. This can be amplified by healing increase and healing received stats, but not by holy damage. It's interesting to note that the healing Ellinia receives is based on her real-time stats, while the healing for the possessed target is based on a snapshot of her stats at the time of possession. Thus, a strategic approach involves using Ymir's notebook to switch to a healing-focused equipment set before possession and then returning to her regular gears. Additionally, Intertwined Fate synergizes with Rainbow Guard as it increases the shield generation for both herself and the possessed target by 30%. When combined with the Element Barrier 6v6 talent, her teammate can receive a shield capable of absorbing damage equal to 3.8 times of Ellinia's max HP. This passive can also help amplify other shield effects, such as Yumo Xing's Comet Fried Rice, Thor's Storm Barrier, and the War Preparedness Arcane Rune. Another key ability is Shackle Breaking, which is Ellinia's anti-crowd control skill where it removes all crowd control and abnormal status effects from herself and the possessed target. It's a powerful anti-CC skill since it can remove 4 statuses such as Black Hole, Space Silence, and Sacrifice Taunt. Additionally, it grants immunity to CC and abnormal statuses for 1 second, which can extend up to 4 seconds with the related star rune. Lastly, Ellinia's Starlight Flow passive increases her own flee by 30% and movement speed by 15%. When possessing PP Dragon or a teammate, this buff can be transferred to the possessed target. With the tier 5 effect of her exclusive weapon, she can further increase the movement speed of the possessed teammate by an additional 15% for a total of 30%. Thus, this buff will be extremely beneficial for teammates who rely on flee and high mobility like Jormungandr. Lastly, let's take a look at Ellinia's debuff skills. Ellinia can possess an enemy player for 10 seconds using Meow's Prisoner, which has several effects. First, Ellinia gains a portion of the possessed enemy's Ignore Physical Death, Physical Pen, Physical Damage, and Skill Damage bonuses. Second, when the possessed enemy attacks, they will instead damage their own allies. However, neither Ellinia nor the possessed enemy can attack each other directly. Third, Ellinia can only use her Mercury Concerto skill, and both parties cannot enter hiding state. And lastly, the enemy screen will be partially obstructed by two large cat paws, making it difficult for them to see what's happening in the middle of the screen. This makes Meow's Prisoner a strong disorienting debuff that can disrupt the enemy team's coordination. Aside from possessing the enemy, Ellinia can also transform an enemy into a small veggie using Dolan Trick. This transformation applies a dispellable debuff to the enemy that stops them from attacking, bans all their passive skills, and reduces their movement speed. This can be particularly annoying against enemies who rely heavily on passives, such as Raph Breezy's HP block. Although this debuff only lasts for 3 seconds, it can completely turn the tide of a battle by disabling critical passives at the right moment. Despite having a long cooldown of 22 seconds, this can still be lowered by CD reduction gears and the corresponding star rune. Therefore, building cooldown reduction is highly recommended in PvP as it allows Ellinia to use Dolan Trick more frequently to repeatedly disrupt key defensive mechanisms and passive reliant abilities on the enemy team. To summarize, Ellinia offers a unique blend of strengths both in PvE and PvP. First, Ellinia can deal a respectable amount of continuous damage, thanks to Mercury Concerto and PP Dragon's multi-tick damage that scales with both ranged physical and magic attack. Moreover, when possessing a teammate, she gains up to 50% of their offensive attributes, enhancing her overall damage potential. Her signature weapon, Star of Bethlehem, provides an additional 30% damage boost when she's at full health, making her even more formidable when unharmed. While her DPS might not match the meta DPS classes like Kalsberg or Inferno Armor, her survivability is far superior because she remains invincible during her possession state. Second, Ellinia also has a supportive role, benefiting not only herself but also a possessed teammate. She can boost survivability by healing the possessed target, providing an undispellable shield, clearing crowd control and abnormal statuses, and enhancing flee and movement speed. These buffs are highly advantageous in both PvE and PvP, especially when applied to primary damage dealers, allowing them to stay alive longer and maintain higher damage output. And third, Ellinia can effectively disrupt enemies in PvP. She can possess an enemy during their attacks against their own team while siphoning their offensive stats. Additionally, Dolan Trick can temporarily stop an enemy's attacks and ban their passive skills, severely reducing their effectiveness in battle. These debuffs can shift the momentum in PvP by disorienting the enemy and creating openings for her team to capitalize on. But of course, Ellinia still has some shortcomings that you should consider. First, one of Ellinia's main drawbacks is that her Mercury Concerto skill targets multiple enemies at random, making her damage output unreliable in situations where there are many enemies. The more targets there are, the more her damage is spread thin. This makes her less effective in Oracle or White Star Airship, where she has to deal with large groups of enemies and can't focus down individual targets quickly. Second, Ellinia's damage potential significantly increases when she possesses a teammate, gaining a portion of their offensive stats. This means that in order to fully maximize her DPS, she needs a strong ally to possess, such as a Kalsberg, Inferno Armor, or Thor. Solo players who don't have a reliable teammate to partner with may find it difficult to make the most of Ellinia's potential, which can make other DPS classes a more attractive choice for solo play. And third, although Ellinia provides numerous supportive buffs, the effects are only limited to herself and one teammate. Unlike a Saint, she lacks team-wide abilities like resurrecting fallen teammates, buffing teammates' offensive power, or converting enemies to Dark Element. Thus, her role is more of a secondary DPS with some support skills for a single teammate. In conclusion, while Ellinia offers decent damage, strong survivability, and valuable buffs for one teammate, her reliance on a partner for maximum damage and her limited team-wide support means that she is best suited as a secondary DPS or niche support in most situations. How about you guys? Do you think Ellinia will be part of the meta? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll also be releasing a full guide on her PvE DPS build in another video, so stay tuned for that. Alright, that's it for this video guys. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed watching this guide. If you're new here, I would love you to consider subscribing by hitting the subscribe button down below. I would love to have you back. Thank you for watching and see you in our next episode.